Well, hello and good morning. So good to see you all this morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine. It is an exciting time. You know what? Oh, I got to get my glasses so I can see you better. There we go. Then I can see you as you're coming on this morning. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Pensacola. It's a little bit rainy and it's a little bit cool. So it's reminding me of home. And I so miss my Canadian seasons. But you know, it was so good that the Lord brought us to Pensacola part-time because we still have some beautiful seasons here in this state. Well, here in this Pensacola, in the state of Florida, they don't always have seasons everywhere, but here in Pensacola, we do. So good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine. Good morning, Landon. Good to see you on this morning. And you know, it's really an exciting time that we're in. God is on the move. Dr. Russ and Ashley just came back from Saskatchewan and out in the western prairies. And then Dr. Russ went on to Fort Myers from the west to go to boot camp with all of the men out there, 400 men coming together to love on the Lord and celebrate their manhood. And that's really something today, isn't it? And we need to encourage the men to love the Lord and celebrate who they are in Him, because that is so very important, more than ever today. Good morning, Carmen. Hello, Linda. Good to see you this morning. Yes, I see those flags, Carmen, those American and Canadian flags. You know, I have a North American heart. I love my beloved Canada, and I love the United States as well. I believe that God has given me a North American heart so that I can love both countries, and I really truly do. Good morning to my sister-in-law, Christine. Good to see you this morning. Well, I hope we're going to get blessed this morning together, and let's go through what the Lord has been speaking to me in the last few days. In Luke 6:36, it says, "Be you therefore merciful as your Father is merciful." And you know, if we could just be merciful like God is, you know, it's hard sometimes, isn't it? Because we want things our own way. We want to have a say. And God is saying, be merciful, be loving, be caring. Yes, we love Canada too, Carmen. We truly do. And we will definitely be there more now. You know, I was waiting on my immigration process, and now they've given me permission to go back and forth so I don't have to give up my path to citizenship here. So praise the Lord, we'll be able to travel back and forth more now. Good morning, Rebecca. Good to see you. So be you therefore merciful as your Father is merciful. That's Luke 6:36. You know, let's be honest. We all know someone who's hard to love, don't we? A family member, our boss, maybe somebody we work with, or a nosy neighbor. We all know people who are very difficult to love. And if we're even more honest with ourselves, we can be hard to love sometimes too. You know, keeping our own little idiosyncrasies in mind gives us a helpful perspective on learning how to love other people, because none of us are perfect. And we are always pressing in to be more like God. We are allowing His Spirit to work through the issues that we so easily get taken off track by. I am far from being perfect in my own life, and there's still things that God is working on. And you know, there's seasons where things will be stirred up and we think, wow, I thought I'd already dealt with that, and God is bringing it to pass in a new way so that we can see it in a different way. We can realize that we're still struggling in some areas with those same behavioral patterns or issues in our life, and God wants us to press in to produce the fruit in those areas. It's hard. We can learn how to love challenging people, and we must allow the Spirit to love them through us. You see, Jesus, He invites us, even commands us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. Well, as long as we love those who love us or those who are like us, we never really truly learn how to love. We only learn how to love God's way when we're stretched beyond our human capacity. Well, what's tough about that is God's commanding us to love people who sometimes we see as a pain in the neck or a nuisance. But God is commanding us to love people, even those that we don't like. And how do we learn how to do this? Here's my little Ruby this morning over here. Come on up here and see me, Ruby. Look at my little Ruby this morning. She's my good girl. She's been such a sweetheart and such a pet. And we've had our first litter of puppies. Ruby Joy Enterprises is now a registered home breeders. And we've had our first puppies. Some have gone into Canada. So Ruby Joy we're there spreading the joy even when we're not there. And God will always lead us into new and exciting things that we love to do and that we're called to do. So let's trust Him and learn how to love those that we cannot love in our own human capacity by pressing in to the Spirit of grace. Proverbs 15:1 says, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger." So many times we get upset about things and then we make it worse by the things we say. And we have to yield to the Spirit so that we can respond and not react. And if we'll yield to the Spirit of grace, then He causes us to respond in a godly fashion when our anger is stirred. And we also need to do that when we're talking to someone else about what happened or if the subject comes up. We're not just supposed to vent and say all the things that are wrong about that person. Come on. We can't compliment them to their face and complain about them behind their back. But so many times we can be given over to that if we're not aware. Good morning, Maria. So we have to press past our human natural tendencies and press into that supernatural ability of God to love others in spite of everything, like He loves you and me. The key is coming to the realization that it is impossible for us to love certain people. We need the Lord, and we can't do it in our own power. It only happens when we ask God to love them through us. You see, it's God's love flowing through us that empowers us to love a difficult person and to love in a different way, to respond to the situation instead of react and blow up. Now, we're all still can be those who react. I can still react from time to time myself. We all have flesh. And if we give into the flesh, the Bible's clear that if we walk in the flesh, then we're going to reap corruption and we're going to reap envy and jealousy and anger and wrath. The same way that if we walk in the Spirit and we respond through the Spirit, we're going to reap life and life abundantly. We're going to reap good things, not the things that the flesh would bring. So are we willing, is the question, to allow God to love someone through us? Or do we just keep on making that same carnal decision that they're not worthy of it, they're not worth it, I can't waste my time on them? I've heard that so many times from people. Wouldn't that be terrible if Jesus said something like that to you and me? I can't waste my time on them. Those are words we would never, ever hear come out of Jesus' mouth, because He loves us in spite of everything and because of nothing. There's nothing we could do today to make Him love us less, and nothing we could do today to make Him love us more. He loves us with that perfect supernatural love. And you and me, we have the ability to tap into that supernatural flow to love people in spite of the way that they're behaving. But we have to choose to do that. We have to exercise our will in the same way God's will is, not contrary to His will, but we must exercise our will with His. Reality is rough. And if we only want what's easy, then we're probably only going to get what never lasts. That's my butterfly cup this morning, Christine, and it's full of Tim Hortons coffee, I might add. Thank God I can get Tim Hortons coffee down here because we still love our Tim Hortons. Reality, it's rough. If we only want what's easy, I'm saying this again because it's important, then we're really only going to get what never lasts, because nothing is easy. Every relationship takes work. Every relationship takes sacrifice. Every relationship takes preferring someone else instead of always wanting our own way. You see, everybody wants to be fought for, but nobody's willing to fight. Nobody's willing to fight for somebody else. And sometimes in relationship, you've got to be willing to fight for someone else. You got to be willing to fight for your marriage, fight for your kids, fight for your job position. You've got to be willing to fight for the things that God brings into your life. And love isn't really that hard, but people can be difficult. It's hard to love sometimes. Come on, let's be honest. It's hard for me to love sometimes. And I tend to be a person who loves others. But if I feel, see, it's my feelings, if I feel stepped on or looked over or not valued or important, I can allow my feelings to take the place of my faith, and I can move in the soulish realm instead of the realm of the spirit. If I allow my feelings that I'm hurt, that I'm upset, to lead me instead of the Spirit of God leading me, then I'm going to react in ways that bring the responses I don't want. But God is saying, when things get tough, the tough get going, the tough press in, the tough press on, the tough in the midst of the darkness, sing the song of God that brings the light and changes things, the atmosphere. We have control over that atmosphere, you and me. And we can change the atmosphere with love, or we can move in that place of disappointment and upset and bring that heaviness. We'll pout. You ever see somebody pouting because things didn't work out? We get the pout. I've been guilty of that. But you know what? We're not supposed to pout. If we're trusting God, what do we have to pout about? We should be smiling and happy because we have got the victory. We have got the victory. However, we have to convince ourselves of that sometimes. And we can't allow ourselves to wallow in places of self-pity or pout, because that will allow the enemy to work and we'll just go without. But by faith, we can believe and receive. You see, no one wants to believe that they're hard to love. But sometimes we can be hard to love. Sometimes we can be those who will never change. That people talk to us over and over and over again about the same old things, and we keep doing the same old things, and that makes us hard to communicate with. That makes us hard for people to be involved with, because it doesn't matter the advice we give or the things we say. You just go ahead and do things your own way. And that's a difficult place. We all want to think that we're wonderful, that we have admirable qualities. And you know, even if we do see ourselves as a loving person, others may not see us that way. Asking ourselves some hard questions can help us to be true to ourselves and to yield to the Spirit and change whatever it is that He wants us to change. Because I can guarantee you this morning that there are some things that God still wants us to change in our own life. I know in my own life the last week or so, God's been dealing with me about some issues that I thought were already put to bed. Instead, they rose their ugly head instead. And God is saying, no, you have to yield to the Spirit. That's the hardest place to yield, is when we feel we've been wronged, when we feel like people aren't treating us right, when we feel like we're not appreciated. That is the easiest place to get into the flesh. And God is saying, no, turn the other cheek, exercise grace, take a little step back, give yourself some space, and respond in the spirit of love and grace. Think about this. Do others avoid spending time with you? Let's be honest and see where we can change. Do you commonly get the feeling that others are quick to get upset with you? Do you often feel misunderstood and misjudged? Does it make you angry when others don't respond to you in the way that you think they should, or they don't meet your needs? You have unrealistic expectations of other people. Do you find it hard to see another person's perspective? Do you constantly blame others for the way you feel? Or do you negate their feelings instead of allowing them to have their own feelings? Because feelings are not right or wrong, they just are. Do others feel comfortable dealing with you directly, or do they deal with you indirectly rather than trying to resolve a problem with you? Now, my little babies over here are resolving a problem between one another. They don't want to stay in the kitchen. You see, we can't control whether or not someone else loves us, but we can control our own attitude and behavior that determines whether we are harder or easier to get along with. Rosie, come here. Come here, Rosie. That's my little Rosie. Look at her, how cute she is. Come here, baby. Come here, baby. Come here. Little Heavenly went out. Now she's alone and she doesn't like that. But Mommy's right here. Come on. We can control our behaviors and our attitudes. And that determines whether we're hard to get along with or easy to get along with. If we compliment people to their face and then complain about them behind their back, we're hypocrites. That shows we only care about what we look like, not how we really are. If we complain about people constantly, but we're so nice to them when we see them, that is so wrong in God's heart. We are to be honest, not telling a lie, even a small one. We're all to grow into the rule of honesty. Come on. Some of us exaggerate. Some of us add to the story, or we flat out bring a falsehood. When we lie and somebody finds out about it, because they always do, because gossip is the ugly stepsister of lying, people retreat from us. They don't mistreat us, they retreat from us because they don't want to deal with that all the time. Every time they're around you, they don't know if you're saying what's right or what's wrong. They aren't sure. Because soon as someone knows that you lie about this or that, then they're never going to know when you're telling them the truth. We all have to allow the work of the Spirit. That's the only thing that will cause us to be the kind of people who attract others through honesty and integrity. And if we allow the work of the Spirit, then we'll produce His fruit and we'll not only love others, but we won't be hard to love either. It's not easy to say I'm sorry. It's not easy to see that you're wrong about something. We all have trouble with that. Nobody wants to be corrected or think that they're not right about this or that, but none of us are perfect all the time. We're not Jesus. And we need one another to balance us out and to show us where we're failing. Iron sharpens iron. And when we will trust those that we love to help us, then we will become more loving, more caring, more kind. I love what Maria's just saying here this morning. Pride keeps us wounded, but humility will heal. And that is so, so very true, Maria, because our pride will just keep us thinking we're okay. But when we're humble and we'll admit that we do things wrong and we do have our own issues, then God can heal us through that. Come on, we all know that people will be people, but come on, people need the Lord. Some people bring sunshine. Some people bring rain. Some walk under a cloud and some bring a hurricane. Some are sweet as heaven. Some are sour as hell. Some are honest and upfront. Some are always spinning a spell. Some are thoughtful and patient. Some demanding and abrupt. Some always helpful and caring, while others divide and disrupt. Some who act charming and lovely, yet scheme, deceive, and lie. Some who make you laugh, and some who make you cry. But people will be people. They're from every walk of life. Some walk in peace and some walk in strife. Some are deliberate and intentional. Some don't care very much at all. Some will help you up, while others help you fall. Some are so self-centered, never seeing the journey of others, critical and judgmental of their sisters and their brothers, name-calling and labeling, she's a witch, he's a beast, degrading and demanding from the greatest to the least. Difficult people are conflict-driven. They don't really care about your opinion. We can never know a person's heart or all that they've been through. It's our call to love them in spite of what they've done or didn't do. We are not to abhor, but to understand. We're not to be quick to take the gavel in our hand. We are not to accuse or bear false witness, always putting our nose in another's business. Because God, in his mercy, will have the final say. And our judgment of others won't matter come that day. Come on. God's love in us and through us will always win the day. We cannot react to problems and situations the same old way. We have to yield our hearts to the Spirit and be willing to do what's right. And then you and I will be pleasing in God's sight. And that's what really matters. That's what it's all about. That we would live in a place of faith. We would not entertain doubt. And we would be those that God looks down on and would say, that's my daughter, that's my son acting that way. Come on. Let's love with the God kind of love. Let's not be difficult to get along with. Let's press in to the Spirit of God, who's easy to be entreated, who's comforting and caring and patient and kind. And let's have a like mind, the mind of Christ, who thinks on things that are lovely and pure and just and right. And let's you and me make a decision today to always be pleasing in God's sight. I love you. God bless you. And see you next week on Rise and Shine.